In the Genealogy of Morals, Nietzsche argues that the heroic virtues of ancient Greece were eventually replaced with the self-denying asceticism, which he later criticizes in Christianity. What he calls master morality was overturned by slave morality. The slaves reinterpret their weakness as virtue. Altruism, self-denial, and weakness are all now the new moral ideals. In this video, I'm going to focus upon the ascetic ideal in particular. The problem with Nietzsche's account is that the first ascetics weren't the downtrodden. They were the rich and powerful, and they didn't feign belief only to pass it off onto the masses. They lived it in earnest. Although Nietzsche does acknowledge that early morality emerges out of economic relations, he doesn't quite go far enough. For this reason, many of the reproductions of Nietzsche's Genealogy of Morals leave the idealist character of the history of thought unquestioned. In this video, I'm going to provide a materialist genealogy of morals. The invention of money is responsible for the emergence of slave morality in the Axial age. I should caveat that this video is quite repetitive of my last video. I felt that the last video didn't frame the content well, and I've considered deleting the last video, but for the time being, I'm going to leave both of them up. So, how could money, a mere tool, produce the ascetic revolution in morality? Well, the first thing to understand about the Axial Age experience of money is that it was never regarded as a mere physical invention, nor as a tool of practical utility. It was experienced as a drastic intervention into human psychology. Let's see how. Today, the experience of constantly unsatisfied desire or endless ambition for power, money, or self-improvement is seen as natural. You might hear some people saying that it was selected for by evolution in order to promote survival and competition. But actually, there's no evidence of this. If you look at other societies of different levels of development, pre-monetary societies, for example, you see no descriptions of desire like this. Contemporary hunter-gatherers display no interest in constant self-optimization or self-mastery, and they're some of the most satisfied people in the world. In fact, this form of desire emerges at a quite definite moment in history. It emerges alongside the invention of money. Nowhere in Homer or the Vedas do we find the idea that wealth or power should be accumulated without limit. Desire in these traditions remains bounded by concrete needs. This makes sense. No one has reason to desire more tools than they can use, or more food than they can eat, or more clothes than they can wear. Objects with specific use values carry their own internal limits, as satisfaction is built into their use. Their desirability ends naturally. In fact, while food rots and tools rust, money is of less inconvenience to accumulate, because, as I mentioned in my other video, for the first time in ancient Greece, the state would replace damaged or rusted coins. This gave people the impression that the essence of the coin was immaterial, as it could survive the death of its body. This is more true today than ever, as money is completely immaterial. It's just numbers on a screen. Because money promises access to everything, every object, every experience, every status, it comes to feel more valuable than the things which it can buy. People then develop an independent desire for money rather than the things which it's meant to buy. But money itself is not satisfying. It can't be eaten, it can't be used as shelter, it doesn't bring us warmth. It's only supposed to be a means towards the end of acquiring other objects which are inherently satisfying. Now, any desire which mistakes a means for an end will be experienced as endless. So, money restructures desire and produces a pathological desire without end. Desire itself now comes to be experienced as a sickness. Asceticism is the philosophical reaction to the psychological pathologies introduced by the invention of money. Before the invention of money, there is no description of desire as an endless craving. But as soon as money is invented, so is Buddhism, which is an entire philosophy revolving around an ontology of desire, which describes desire much as we've just described this pathological form of desire. So, nowhere in the world, in ancient Indian or ancient Greek philosophy, before the invention of money, can we find the tiniest suspicion of a wish to renounce the material world in favor of some spiritual quest. As soon as money was invented, so were the various symptoms of asceticism: the disciplining of the body, the suspicion of pleasure, the belief that the flesh betrays the mind, and self-denial. As one scholar puts it, the hero has become a monk, the man of action is replaced by the quietist. But asceticism presents itself quite differently around the world. In ancient Greece, they emphasized self-control, whereas in ancient India, they emphasized withdrawal and isolation. We don't often consider the Greek ethic of self-mastery as a kind of self-denial or asceticism, partly because it's so ingrained in our own culture. But it is. It's cut from the exact same cloth as the Buddhist renouncers, whose most extreme practices include holding one's arms aloft till they wither, staring into the sun until one is blind, lifetime vows of silence, and setting oneself on fire. Both traditions see desire as an enemy, either to be tamed and governed, or to be gotten rid of once and for all. Before the Axial Age, there is no internal war of the passions. The hero acted. He did not sit in judgment of his own appetites, like the monk, the philosopher, or the Stoic. It's worth briefly clarifying that I'm not saying that before the Axial Age there was no celibacy, social isolation, or fasting. Just that they were not done in the service of a world-denying philosophy whose enemy was desire itself. What characterizes asceticism is its opposition to desire and its coherence as a worldview and way of life. But why should we be so convinced that Buddhism is a reaction to money? Well, many of its central concepts, like karma, for example, read as metaphors for economic entities. Karma was conceived of as currency. Long life, good health, beauty, rebirth in heaven, high birth, nirvana, all are found for sale here, to be bought for karma. It was even spoken about in terms of a cycle of metaphysical debt and credit. Karma has all the properties of money. It's abstract, universal, hoardable, fungible, exchangeable, valuable. For a convincing case that karma is the projection of money, see Richard Seaford's 2020 book. It's really convincing. But the evidence continues. To escape the perpetual dissatisfaction of the karma economy, or the money economy, which the Buddhists call samsara, this state of endless dissatisfaction, Buddhist monks were forbidden to handle money. And in some of the more extreme sects of Indian ascetic philosophy, they were required to renounce all material possessions. Given the experience of money as psychologically corrupting, it makes sense that money is renounced. But given also that with the invention of money, value is seen as universally present beneath all things. Not only is money renounced, but now everything of value, all wealth, the whole material world is renounced. As I noted at the beginning, the first Buddhist renouncers were not the poor, but elites and princes, the wealthiest and most powerful people of their societies. It was the rich who renounced, because having everything exposed to them the illusion that wealth ends desire. From one generation to the next, they went from satisfied with their wealth to completely unsatisfied. And they knew they couldn't be because they didn't have enough of it. In summary, it's the invention of money which is responsible for the emergence of asceticism and slave morality. The unique logical structure of money rewires the natural structure of human desire and produces a desire without end. So, when in other videos I say that things take part in our minds and alter our nature, I'm not being flippant. Anyway, Axial Age people experience desire as a sickness, an enemy, an other within them. This inspired the war against the passions. In Greece, it took the form of self-mastery. In India, the form of self-isolation. Today, it informs the practices of the major world religions, the popular philosophies, and even our mundane, everyday habits. I even know people who suffer from this pathology, who speak of money in very fetishistic terms, and in the next breath, never having read any Buddhism, will regale me with a Buddhist ontology of desire. Anyway, that is the secret origin of asceticism, which even Nietzsche, its great critic, could not discover. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.